Following the U.S. Supreme Court decision yesterday in the case Trump v. the United States, that is where the court held that a former president has absolute immunity for his core constitutional powers, President Biden has emerged from his post-debate retreat, where we've not seen hide or hair of him, but he emerged from all of that to give a public appearance and to blast, literally, the decision from the Supreme Court. And this comes as the left continues its temper tantrum while at the same time hypothesizing some outlandish scenarios that they claim the court has now enabled. So all of this comes as Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg has said today that he's not going to oppose former President Trump's request to delay the sentencing in his hush money trial following the Supreme Court ruling. So a lot taking place around all of this. And joining me now with an analysis of the Supreme Court's decision and what today's events mean moving forward is Article 3 Project Senior Counsel Will Chamberlain. Will, welcome back to Washington Watch. Great to have you.
Great to be with you, Jody.
All right, so before we get into all the details, the events of today certainly mean, if nothing else, that former President Trump's sentencing is not going to occur until after the Republican convention later on this month. Is that correct?
That's correct. Sentencing's been delayed until September.
Okay, so they could do it right after the convention, right before early voting starts in some places. Is that intentional?
I think it's actually, they're a little more worried that they're going to have to toss this jury verdict out. I didn't originally see the problem for the New York case that came from the Supreme Court ruling, but now I do. The Supreme Court didn't just hold that you couldn't prosecute a president for their official acts. It's that you couldn't bring in evidence of their official acts to help prove other crimes. And for reasons that escape me, the New York prosecutors decided to go ahead and bring in this evidence, bring in official acts evidence to the jury, even as President Trump's lawyers flagged this issue, objected, and said that this evidence shouldn't be brought in because it's immune, because it's covered by immunity. And now that the Supreme Court ruling has come out, it means that there's a bunch of evidence in this trial that shouldn't have been there, which suggests that there needs to be a mistrial and a new trial if they're going to prosecute this case at all.
Wow. Great point, connecting all those dots. All right, so there was some other news today. I try to, if you can, kind of fill us in on today's events as a whole. What else does all this tell us?
Well, I mean, it's the right answer because it prevents a tit-for-tat escalation of prosecuting former presidents. I'm not one for unilateral disarmament. So if this ruling came out the other way and President Trump prevailed in November, which I think he almost certainly will now, I and many others would have demanded prosecutions of both Joe Biden and Barack Obama for their official acts that were covered by general criminal laws. President Obama assassinated an American citizen, the son of al-Awlaki way back when he was president. President Biden's done a number of very lawless things, from paroling hundreds of thousands of people at the border unlawfully to his blatant disregard of the Supreme Court's ruling on student loans. So if they have no protection for their official acts while in office, well, they can be prosecuted for those things.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's, I guess, rather than coming out and blasting the decision, President Biden probably ought to be thanking them himself.
That's exactly right.
So switching, if we can, to this whole immunity decision from the Supreme Court, what's kind of amazing to me is all the hypothetical scenarios that are being invented by the left as to what this decision is going to lead to. What do you make of all of that?
Yeah, I mean, I keep hearing about the SEAL Team 6 scenario, which is absurd for five independent reasons. So the first is...
Yeah, relay that so our viewers and listeners know exactly what they're claiming.
So the Democrats claim that if the president has any kind of immunity for their official acts, that they can then lawfully order SEAL Team 6 to assassinate their political opponents. That's the
unbelievable. Like the Supreme Court is giving a stamp on assassinations. Wow.
Yeah, you wonder why their mind goes that way, honestly. Like, it's a little bit concerning independently. But there's a lot of reasons that hypothetical is silly. First, the UCMJ binds military members who are not allowed to follow unlawful orders in the first place. They would reject that. Second, in a world where our military was working with the president to assassinate their political opponents, that would be a world where we were dealing with an actual coup that had succeeded. Right? So
Right. Yeah.
I don't think the courts are not the remedy for a world in which we have a successful military coup. I think that whether or not later on we would hope to prosecute the president is the least of our concerns at that point. Third, there's no reason to think that the Supreme Court ruling would actually immunize this conduct by a president. It doesn't give absolute immunity to all official acts that the president does, only to core functions of the president. And the ultra vires use of the military domestically, I don't believe would be a core function of the government and would be something that the court would allow to be prosecuted. And there's enough leeway in the Supreme Court opinion that in the event that a president did in fact use the military to assassinate his political opponents, again, think about how silly that is, there is enough leeway that a future Supreme Court prosecuting such a president would be able to ensure that they were able to be prosecuted and convicted.
Wow. Well, ultimately, it seems to me that this decision at the end of the day was the direct result of the Democratic Party's lawfare against former President Trump. None of this needed to happen. None of this, in my opinion, would have happened. It is only here, and we're only dealing with it because of the left's overreach. Is that an accurate assessment?
Correct. No president has been prosecuted before. And the Democrats try to claim that, oh, well, President, Trump is uniquely criminal. And but we can talk about how other presidents have done things with their official acts that can be construed as crimes if you you sort of assume that they are immune from prosecution under general laws. So it's not that President Trump did anything unique here. It's that the Democrats decided in their zeal to do something that's never been done in our republic before and prosecute a former president.
Right. Okay, so on another topic, the House Judiciary Committee has filed a lawsuit against Attorney General Merrick Garland. They did this yesterday to contest the Biden administration invoking executive privilege to withhold the audio. So did the president's, and I just got to ask you, did the president's horrible debate performance reinforce the severity of all of this? That Attorney General Merrick Garland's contempt of Congress for refusing to deliver these recordings is fully justified, and it was evident in the debate.
Yeah, I mean, you understand why he wanted to withhold the recordings now.
Right.
Pretty clearly would reveal just how far his cognitive decline has gone. That said, there's no legitimate lawful basis for Merrick Garland to refuse to release this audio tape. Remember, he already released the transcript. It's hard to imagine how the transcript could be unprivileged and able to be released, but the recording itself could be privileged. That doesn't make any sense at all.
So what would happen with the audio? What are you leading to there? We have the transcript. What else is revealed, if we can say, with the audio coming?
Well, the audio shows exactly what he said and how he said it, right? The transcript is somebody else's interpretation of that audio tape. The audio tape is we get to hear with our own ears exactly what Joe Biden sounded like in those interviews. And remember, those are the interviews that led Special Counsel Hur to conclude that Joe Biden was an elderly, well-meaning man with a poor memory. And as a result of that, it would be impossible to prosecute him because a lot of the crimes that he would be charged with would have intent requirements that Hur didn't think he could prove because he couldn't prove that Joe Biden knew what he was doing.
Well, it seems to me that little by little, the entire, not only the administration, but the entire Democratic Party right now is being squeezed into a corner where there have been so many attempts to hide, to cover up, to protect the president. All that seems to be unraveling right now. Do you think it's an authentic unraveling, or somehow are they going to pull another rabbit out of the hat and keep moving forward?
No, it's an authentic unraveling. This isn't part of any plan because there's no good alternative for the Democrats. A lot of people are saying, oh, well, there will be an easy switcheroo. They'll just switch somebody out for Biden, and that was the plan all along. Biden owns those delegates. They're his. They don't belong to anybody else. And remember Ralph Northam. Remember how the Democrats wanted him to resign after he was shown to be wearing blackface? They couldn't make him resign, so he stayed around in office. Biden doesn't have an incentive to resign. He doesn't have an incentive to give up his delegates. So why would he?
Wow. Unbelievably interesting. Thank you, Will Chamberlain. Fascinating discussion. Thanks for all that you do and Article 3 Project. You guys are fantastic. We deeply appreciate you coming on the program and unraveling all this that is unraveling for us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Jody.